What's up, guys? This is Ty from Five Guys Gaming, and today we're going to be talking about how I make our group video projects. I haven't actually had a chance to put any out yet because I've been a little busy making this, but yeah, so what we're going to do right here to start out is we're going to be making a project that is specifically for burning in our names into our videos. So obviously there's 5 of us that have been recording, and when we switch between the screens, you want to be able to know which screen you're looking at. And so right now we're just making a new project, just to put the names in the top corners. I'm using Premiere for this portion of the project, though I recognize many of you don't have Premiere because it is kind of expensive, but you know, it's what I have, it's what I'm used to. I'll get into Resolve for the actual editing portion. Resolve is a free program, but yeah, so basically just import all your videos. It's as simple as that. You bring them in, and then what you're going to do is you're going to drag each one over into the timeline. And then however your editor does it, you're going to have to add a title. And so once you've added the title, you basically just put the person's name of whoever's video you're recording. And then you get to play around with it, put it on the right spot. And once it's in the right spot, you can kind of just change the appearance of it. For us, I like to put a little outline around each name so that it's a little bit more visible against the background. Sometimes just a solid white name or a solid black name is going to get lost depending on what's actually showing up on screen. And so if you put a little stroke around the name, it's going to be a lot easier for everyone to be able to see what's going on. And so you can see I'm just working on getting it lined up perfectly. You can use these settings. Pretty much any editor is going to have the actual settings where you can fine tune them and you can pay attention to the actual location of it. And you can see here, this is where I'm turning on the stroke. Color for me, I'm gonna be going with red. It's gonna be a little different for every other person in this video, but that's just the color that I chose for myself. You're gonna play with the size of it. Basically, right now you're just trying to make it look good. And you want it to be uniform too. So once I finish this one for myself, I'm going to basically copy these exact same settings onto every other track. So that way each person has their name in the exact same place on the screen. However, you want to make sure that it's going to be a different color for each person. That way it's a little more distinctive. Each person has their own little flair. Like I'm red, John's going to be blue, and it's going to be a different thing. What I'm doing right now that I was just talking over is I'm extending that title out so that it covers the entire video. And of course, save frequently because these programs crash. Just had a buddy the other day whose computer crashed while he was working on an editing project, and the way it crashed also broke Windows, and his computer was down for like 2 days. Luckily, the file's saved, so make sure you save frequently so you don't have to worry about any of these issues. What I just did there was I copied the timeline that I had used to create that title, so that way I still have the template here. And so you just delete the video that was in there in the first place, bring in the new one, play with the length of that title, and then you just go in, edit the name of the person to whoever it is. Oops, messed up. Sorry, guys. You get to know Classy King's real name here. Actually, I think you get to know everybody's real names. So that's my bad. And to the other guys watching this, I am sorry, but you have real names, and I call you by your real names in real life. So sorry about that. I'll fix that later. I'll fix it in post. Wait, this is post. Oh, well. So what I'm doing right now, just change the color over to whatever his actual preference is, and this is the color we decided on for our original logo, so that's going to be Classy King's boundary once I change his name a little bit later on, which I think I'm going to do outside of this recording here. But then once you've got them all done, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to export them. And so, right, I'm showing you how to do that in Premiere right here. Actually, I'm trying to figure out how to do it in Premiere because every editor is a little bit different. And so, yeah, basic settings. You don't actually want to use H.264 or MP4 for this, or at least unless you have a really powerful computer. I don't. So what I like to use is the QuickTime format with the GoPro Cineform preset, or you can do Apple ProRes. Pretty much any of those uncompressed ones are going to run a lot faster just because of the way that your computer actually processes the information in the videos. But I like to use those ones, and I typically render things in media encoders, so just in case Premiere crashes, it's a little bit easier. But basically, you just get that set up, click play, and it'll render out. It'll take a really long time, but you'll be ready to import it into DaVinci Resolve, which is what I'm going to do right now. And so, of course, start a new project. It's pretty easy. You can see I've already made one right there just to practice myself, so that way I don't look like an idiot while I'm trying to record this like I did in the first part. You got a little bit of personal video project there too that I am going to be blurring out because I don't want to give away that particular bit of information. It's just like an audition video for my school's drumline, but nobody really needs to know where I'm going to school. So, I'm sorry guys. But yeah, so DaVinci Resolve is a pretty cool thing. It's set up in Windows. So each window in DaVinci Resolve is, or it's pages, sorry, not windows. But there's the media page, which is where you're going to import your projects. So you go into media, and you can see you've got this little window here that's basically just like your system. So you just navigate through it, and you find wherever you store your videos, and make sure you import the .mov or whatever they are, and your audio files for your voiceover recordings. This one, the voiceover ended up being poop, and that's why I never actually released this video. But it gave me a chance to actually practice how to do that, so when it does come time to make the video, I'll have a little bit more experience in editing, and I'll be able to make a little better quality product. So yeah, I skipped the cut page because that's kind of just for making like a rough cut of your project. I don't really want to do that, and so I just kind of don't. So what I'm doing right now is the first thing you have to do is you have to sync. You have to find a common sync point in all the videos. So each one's going to start at kind of a different place. And what you can hear in the in this narration is each of us syncing our picture to the audio. And so we do that just by changing in the menu down, 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 up, up, up. And as we do that, we say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Doing that gives the editor the chance to make sure that the vocal track is going to line up with the gameplay tracks. Okay, so basically what you got to do is you got to find the exact point where that starts. And once you do that is when you're going to open up your other videos, and you're going to be able to hear, or you're going to be able to watch for that part where it goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's at the beginning. It's kind of hard to find sometimes depending on how long the clips are. Each one of these recordings is about an hour, so it was kind of a challenge for me to find it. But then you just got to go to the first frame where it moves. It's going to be a little bit laggy on the actual like sound of it, so you can't really sync it with sound. You got to do it on that frame where it's initially moving, because that's going to be the closest to when you push the button. So you just basically set an in point into that, and then drag it down onto the track. 1, 2, 3. And then you're just going to keep going through it until you find the next one. I solo that vocal audio track so you don't have to hear like the game music or anything too. Pretty much any editor, by the way, to set an in point. I don't know of any where in point isn't I. So just click I real quick and drag it onto the timeline into the correct place. And so you just got to go through each one, take turns. And for me, I think it's important to make sure you keep this organized too. Go through it sequentially. Make sure you know who's coming in first, who's coming in second and third, and however many you have. Doing that's going to make it a little bit easier to actually organize this multicam setup that we're going to have to do later. Because the way you edit it is you actually create like a whole new sequence separate from this one. We're not going to be editing in this at all. This is just to find our initial syncing point. And aside from that, It's just kind of there to look at things at the beginning. And we're not even going to use these initial endpoints that we're using. We're just dropping it into this timeline and changing it all up. But yeah, you're going to have a chance to watch me just go through everybody's thing. Everybody's going to be, pretty much the same. You just got to listen, know who's coming in, know where they're coming in, and get it all to line up. Sometimes you're a little bit off and you got to play with it a little bit. But once you get it all set, it'll be great. The importance of syncing it is basically just like, you don't want a point where somebody's reacting to getting blown up and you don't see that on screen. If there's something important happening, you want to be able to get the real-time reaction to that event from your personality, and you don't want to miss that. I'm kind of a perfectionist with it myself. I like things to be just right. I don't really like half-ass anything, whole ass, one thing at a time, get it perfect, move on to the next thing. And that's kind of my methods for editing here. It takes a minute to get all of them in. This is probably the most, not necessarily time consuming, but the most monotonous part of it, because you're just doing the same thing over and over again. You're finding a point in an audio track where someone says 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then you're finding a point on a video track where somebody moves their cursor 3 spaces, and then you're just putting those together. Like, it's really repetitive, and it kind of gets old after a little bit. Fortunately for you, I only did 4 because Antian has a little bit of difficulty recording on his computer. It's not able to run the Windows 10 game capture mode like the rest of our computers are able to, and so we haven't really had any gameplay footage from him at this point. Hopefully by the time we start to put out videos that are our group videos, we'll be able to actually include his footage. But once we get to that point, they're going to be great. You guys are going to love them. Sorry it's taken us so long. We're pretty much all in college, so there's that. But yeah, once you get all these lined up in the same thing, you're going to go into the videos that you've worked on before. And what you need to do is you need to find that exact frame in your source material. And so you do that with the match frame function. DaVinci Resolve does not have it mapped to a keyboard shortcut by default, but it is in Premiere. It's mapped to F. So when I make my custom mappings in Resolve, I mapped it to Shift F because F is already used. But you just go through each individual track and you do this match frame setting or function, and you want to put an endpoint at that match frame point. And then you want to rename this timeline you've been working on, so that way you don't get mixed up while you're working and do the wrong thing. So I named it Initial Sync. So once you've done that and put that endpoint on all of them, you got to select all the clips, and you right there you right click, create new multicam clip. You can name it whatever you want. Default settings are fine, but make sure you leave that angle sync option as in. If you have it as anything else, it'll break it. It won't work. So use in. Then you just click create. And now it throws all your processed clips into a folder of original clips, and it makes this multicam clip. And so create timeline using that. Name the timeline whatever you want it to. I'm going to name it multicam edit because that is what I'm doing. It's the part that I'm editing. And so you can see it's just got the 1 right there. So you go over to this, you make sure that your multicam thing is in the source browser or the source viewer, and you set up that little display thing so you can see all 5 angles. And then you set it to switch video and audio whenever you switch. And then that way, when you have it to switch video and audio, you'll be able to actually hear what's going on in the game. And now what I just did, I dragged the narration in. It's already got the same endpoint, so it should line up just perfectly. And so I just double checked at the end there, and it ended at the right time, though as you're actually going to find out later when you listen to it, it didn't line up right, and I don't know what I did wrong, but I probably did something wrong. But it's really simple to switch clips. You literally just click on them. And so pretty much you just make sure it stays in that multicam thing. And as you're going through, you can just click. It'll change the angle. And as you can see, when I do it while it's actually playing back, it'll cut in the timeline. So it'll be it basically is the same as dragging and dropping from the source browser into the timeline. And at this point, like, this is all 100% up to you how you want to do it. I've showed you how to set up the multicam thing. There's other videos that might take it a little bit slower. I kind of blazed through it kind of fast because I wasn't recording narration initially when I did the screen capture. I probably should have done that.
How far behind is he?
A little bit easier, but oh well, it's a little too late now. But basically, my process here is you are listening to the narration, and you want to make sure that you're cutting in time with what is being talked about. If somebody's talking about something that is happening on their screen, you need to cut to that point so that we can see it as the audience. Now, the way you're going to do this actual editing is up to you. For me personally, I see there's basically two or three ways to do it. There's the single pass. Well, actually, I think there's two ways, right? There's single pass, where you go through and you do all the editing at once. You make all the cuts, and then you fine-tune those cuts, and you drag in all the extra things. Maybe you want to throw in a little Photoshop, a little something else, whatever. Your own jokes, right? You can throw those in all in one pass over the video, and then at the end, when you get through the whole thing, you're done, and you just preview it, make sure it's good before you export it. Or what I like to do is I like to do multiple passes. So I do the first pass is just the multicam editing. Then the second pass is trimming it and getting everything perfect. And then the third pass is adding in all the editing jokes. And by that point, you should know that the timing of everything is perfect and exactly the way you want it to be. And you don't have to worry about it one bit. And so you just watch it at the end, make sure it's all good. And then you go over to the deliver page. All right, so once you're in the deliver page, you're going to have a little preview of your timeline. You're going to see all the clips that you used in it. So you just go over here and Resolve. It's super easy. You literally just click on YouTube preset. I like to change it to MP4 because screw Apple, right? I hope you guys don't get offended by that. I actually don't mind some of their products. And then from that point, you just find a place to put it. However you want to do it, however you want to title it, add it to your render queue, and then since I didn't save it in the first place, you just pick a place, whatever. It'll add it over to your queue, and then what you do is you just click Start Render, and then you wait. It might take a really long time for this. This was like an hour-long video, so it probably would have taken a good 2 or 3 hours to render, maybe even longer, it depends. But yeah, at that point you just wait. Once you export it, please make sure you watch over your project, make sure it turned out fine, and then you're ready to upload it to YouTube, share it with the world, and get lots of likes and subscriptions. Well, you guys, I hope that video was helpful. I hope you're able to figure out how to do this, get making videos yourself. Never stop making things. Enjoy what you do. And I will see you out there on the YouTube verse.